on Human and People's Rights, we find probably the most distinctive of the regional human rights treaties, at least in two ways. One, it also has a section on group rights, which we do not see in the European or American conventions. And also we see the African Charter sets forth duties of the individual, which we don't find in the other two treaties. Now I'd like to say a few words about the mechanisms among those three regional systems. As I said before, they've all had a commission and a court. The European system today only has a court. The commission was abolished. And as I mentioned before, that's seen as a sign of the strength of the institution. Why is that? Well, because a commission, these commissions on human rights that were established for the three regional systems, had a political filtering function. In other words, individuals could not go directly to the respective regional human rights court. They first had to go to the commission before they could get access to the court. The European Court developed such credibility and such strength that in 1999 it was decided to abolish the European Commission. So individuals have direct access to the European Court of Human Rights. This was a very important development, and again, a sign of the strength and credibility of the European Court of Human Rights. The European Court of Human Rights has the best record in terms of compliance rates with its judgments. The European Court of Human Rights is also the best resourced of all of these regional human rights mechanisms. Another reflection of the strength of the European system is that all member states of the Council of Europe are parties to the European Convention, and therefore they are also all bound by the jurisdiction of the European Court of Human Rights. It's the only regional system where you have universal participation in the regional human rights mechanism, and where that jurisdiction is compulsory for all member states in the regional system. Now, for the inter-American human rights system, there is still both a commission and a court, and the commission alone decides whether to bring the case to the court. If an individual brings a complaint to the commission first adjudicates the complaint, and then the commission will decide whether or not to bring that case to the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. Individuals do not have direct access to the Inter-American Court. An important function of the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, in addition to this filtering function, is that it can receive complaints in its own right, and it has two jurisdictional tracks for the receipt of individual complaints. And that's because not all member states of the Organization of American States are parties to the American Convention on Human Rights. So there are some states, like the United States, like Canada, that are parties to the charter of the OAS, but not parties to the American Convention. Now, the commission was created by the charter, the court created by the convention. So for states that are not parties to the convention, the court has no jurisdiction over them. So the court does not have jurisdiction over states like the US and Canada that are OAS member states, but not parties to the American Convention. However, since they are parties to the OAS charter, the Inter-American Commission does have jurisdiction to receive complaints against them. Now, there is some controversy about the nature and extent of this jurisdiction, but the Inter-American Commission asserts jurisdiction to receive and adjudicate individual complaints of human rights violations that are brought against states that are OAS member states but not parties to the American Convention. So this is an interesting and important feature of the Inter-American system. Another important feature of the Inter-American system is that it has seen as being very important for the consolidation and protection of democracy in the Americas, more so than with respect to the other regional systems. This has been seen as a principal virtue of the Inter-American human rights system, and the Inter-American system even more broadly. Finally, the African system, as I mentioned before, it's the newest of the three principal regional human rights systems. It's also the most under-resourced. Nonetheless, the distinctiveness of the African Charter has created an opportunity for the African human rights mechanisms, both the Commission and the Court, to develop jurisprudence in areas that are just not covered by the other regional human rights systems, because the respective rights are not found in those treaties. So, for example, we see in the African Charter on Human and People's Rights a right to development, a right that is absent from the Inter-American human rights system and also from the European